Yo, 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 another Jets talk with Umbro and Tomo. I miss the beanie. I miss the beanie so much, man. Um, Nonetheless, Mike Umbro, Tom O'Connor, we're just going to get right into things here and talk a little bit about pass rushers. And the 2021 NFL draft is chock full of them. The two of us actually agree that this is one of the more poor edge rushing draft classes in recent memory. There's definitely no Myles Garrett or Nick Bosa in this draft class. Nobody worth taking even remotely close to the top 5 or even the top 10, at least from, what we believe to be true. So we're going to run down our individual top 5s and just kind of make some cases and take it from there. Tom O, how you doing, by the way?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I appreciate you asking.
Yeah, of course, of course. I'm actually going to give you the floor here and give me your top 5, and then I'll give my top 5, and we'll kind of just break down each player.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited for this because I did have some change-ups from the last time we spoke. So actually, yeah, I'll run right through the top 5. So first, I actually have Patrick Jones at Pitt. He's my number 1. I have Gregory Rizzo as my number 2 out of Miami. I would actually going to put Carlos Basham as my number 3.
Okay.
And then as my number 4, I was going to do Kwity Paye. And then number 5, Quincy Roche.
I love it. Okay, so I like a lot of what you did there. I'm actually going to switch it up. Carlos Basham is actually my number 1. And I'm going to explain why. I do like Patrick Jones at 2 as well, just because I think he's a little bit more polished. Greg Rousseau, had he not held out this year, would probably be, just because of his pure physicals, the top guy in this draft on a lot of people's boards, and he still is. I just think not playing this year left a lot to be desired. Number 4, Jalen Phillips, and then number 5, Jason Awe. And then number 6 for me is actually going to be Kwity Paye. A lot of people love Kwity Paye. I don't, and I think we actually spoke about this, and we're going to agree. But we can address him after the fact. So your number 1 was...
I want to start with Boogie Basham. You want to start with Boogie
Basham. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
All right, so my notes, very plain and simple. He's got more of the better physicals on the team. Amazing lateral speed. He's making plays all over the field. He's very strong on the interior, which you're going to notice in a lot of these guys. But I think what separates him from the pack is that he's probably the most explosive outside pass rusher out of the 5 that we've all talked about. He has no hesitation in his game. He knows he's getting after the quarterback. He's got a plethora of hand techniques that could probably use some work, but they are well executed for the most part. He's too fast for guards, and he's definitely a little too strong for most tackles. He's constantly making plays in the backfield. He's very heady against option. A lot of the time you notice teams using him as a spy, depending on the situation and depending on the quarterback, because he's just all over the field at all times. That's why personally, I think he's the best pass rusher. And what separates him from the rest is I think he makes more plays on the outside than a lot of these other guys. So that's why I feel pretty strongly about Basham. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I love your takes on it, and I actually love that you have him at first. I literally, for this ranking list, I went over and over in my mind like 100 times, and I probably finally decided about 30 seconds before we started this. But so I think he is the perfect definition of how I feel about this entire draft class. Like you said,
Right.
We don't have any of the Joey Bosa's, the Myles Garrett, but we have a lot of these guys that are really just require a little bit of development, and will come in and actually make some big plays and a big difference, right?
Agreed.
So Carlos Basham, I have him. He's got great size, 6'5", 285, awesome physicals, like you said. He's got really good football IQ. He's, like you said, he's blown up some screens in the backfield, really shuts down the option real well. his hands are unbelievable. He wins at the point of attack on mostly run plays. I found. I did want to kind of say that I feel as though his athletic ability isn't fully there. I think that he gets away and looks like his athletic ability is fully there due to his high motor and effort. I think that's the one thing that separates him from all of these players is this guy doesn't take any plays off. You're not seeing him take any plays off. And I think that's what kind of separates him getting the job done a lot of the time. But I agree with everything you said for the most part, aside from maybe taking away a little bit of pass rush. I think his pass rush needs a lot of refinement.
Okay. Just from what I saw, I think he makes a lot more plays on the outside. And I think that that's the biggest separator. Like when you're drafting a pass rusher, you want somebody who can make a rush or make an impact on the edge. And a lot of these other guys, I feel, are way stronger playing on the interior, sort of like a Quinnen Williams or an Ed Oliver or these other guys. Tom, let's talk about Greg Rousseau. I know he was your guy going in, so talk to me.
Yeah, he's just a freak. I mean, look at his size, 6'7", 270. I mean, every team in the NFL wants to work with that kind of, physicals. Yeah, I wrote freakish length and size. He actually does have a pretty decent burst for his size. It looks a little lumbery, but he does get off the ball pretty well. He genuinely can play anywhere on the D line. You can put him as a 4-3 defensive end. You can bump him inside a D tackle. I could even see him potentially playing a 2-point stance outside linebacker and like a 3-4. I doubt he'll do that, but it's possible. Like I said, every team would want to develop him. He sets the edge. He is a really good, his pass rush moves is that push pull. You push him in, you pull him out, and you're past the quarter, and then you're going towards the quarterback. He does that move so well. I love that. But I think the big thing that he needs to work on is he stands up. When he comes out of a 3-point stance, he stands straight up, and he gets just absolutely jacked up. You can't do that. It's not going to fly. These guys are going to get their hands under your pads, and you're going to be in the ground in the next level. So
yeah, wait till Mekhi Becton gets your hands on you, boy. It's game over.
Exactly, you're in trouble.
No, but I agree. I think he has a lot of the raw physicals and athleticism that most teams want to work with. Again, you want to see a lot of refinement on the outside. I agree with everything that you said. The big differentiator between him and Basham is that he's just more of a stronger inside presence, at least now, from what I notice. And I think that's just because he's too fast and too strong for guards. And I think he maybe when he hits the edge, I think he puts himself out of the play a little too often. And that's going to come with development. I just think out of all the prospects, he's probably he's a little raw. And I've said it from the beginning. I think depending on the team he goes to, listen, if Robert Saleh decided to take a chance on him at 23, he would be the guy to probably get the most out of a guy like Rousseau. But the fit needs to be there. If you're going to go to an offensive heavy team or a team that just, maybe doesn't focus as much on defense, maybe you get him in Tampa at pick 32. I doubt he'll be there. But if he slips to 32 and Todd Bowles can get his hands on him, I got a good feeling about that as well. So, that's kind of my assessment there. How about, how about Patrick Jones? Because, he was your one, he was my two. So let's go ahead and jump into that. I'm going to get started here with my notes. His bull rush is insane. That guy gets through pretty much everybody. He's actually very quick versus double team. It seems like he knows what to do when he gets in front of a double team. Another effort guy, great finisher. He has a really good spin move, which I can definitely appreciate. His bend is decent. He does have some explosiveness. He's another guy who plays very well versus the option. And then for Patrick Jones, it was mostly noticeable when he makes his move to the inside. He might start off on the edge and then come back inside. That's when I think he's the most disruptive. So, with that being said, Patrick Jones has a lot of qualities that you'd like to work with. I just think, again, and this is going to be for everybody, but he needs a little work on his edge rushing as opposed to his inside presence, because I think that's there. I think he needs a little bit more development.
I like that a lot. I like your takes on him. I actually said the same thing. His power rush moves are silly. I just found for really the reason I had him at number one, because I agree with everything that you said. The real reason for me is just that he's the most polished out of all these guys and has the physicals to work with. He's still 6'5", 260. He's a great size, but he just has those pass rush moves that a lot of people don't have. Another thing you said, a lot of times he'll start on the outside and he'll end up scraping down the inside. Yeah, I mean he when on run plays, he scrapes down the line at such high speeds. It's
true.
unbelievable to watch.
Yeah.
Which I love to see. Again, it comes with a high motor and effort, which you love. His biggest weakness, he needs to win more hand fights at the point of attack. Like he needs to win them right away. It would help his pass rush move so much more. And then he just needs to kind of work off his balance. I think he can kind of overcommit to certain moves where he kind of loses his balance a little too much, and definitely hurts him.
Yeah, and those are good points, and I can actually agree with those in terms of his weaknesses. Again, hand fighting could use a little polishment, and I think that would translate well to his outside rushing pass game. And the only thing that I have a concern about, and this kind of translates back to his scraping inside, as good as he is at that, there are too many pro quarterbacks now that can just kind of roll out of that one way or the other and somehow make a play on the outside. This is a league now where quarterbacks are more athletic than ever, unless you're playing against Tom Brady or Jimmy Garoppolo or Drew Brees, who's actually going to be retiring. In that case, you have Taysom Hill, who also likes to make plays on the outside. So that's why setting the edge is so important. And I think a lot of guys know that now. But, Patrick Jones does have a lot to work with, and that's exciting. I have him as like a late first, maybe mid first, early second round guy, depending on where he goes again. I think you could definitely you could probably put him somewhere like, if we're talking mid first round, New England, possibly, put him on a team that already has a lot to work with, maybe like an Indianapolis or a Washington, or hell, even in Oakland, I think, but I'm not 100% sure if Oakland's where he would want to go, because I wouldn't want to play defense for Oakland right now. But they need a lot of help on defense. Let's talk. You want to go Kwity Paye or Jalen Phillips?
So I didn't do any study on Jalen Phillips. My other one was Quincy Roche. Okay, I do have Kwity Paye. Let's do Kwity Paye, because I know we're both itching to talk about him.
Yeah.
Do you mind if do you mind if I go first?
It's all you, brother.
Okay, sweet. So yeah, I think we've definitely talked about this before, which is exciting. So we've seen in mocks where Kwity Paye has gone as high as like number 7 overall. And truthfully, like I couldn't disagree more. I think like the really like, let's just start off with the strengths. Like he's got freakish speed and athleticism for his size. Like when he's playing on the field, he genuinely looks small because of how fast he moves. That is unarguable. The physicals are there. 6'4", 272, running like a running back or a linebacker. That's some scary stuff. He could play anywhere on the D line. He could play inside. He could play outside, even though I specifically prefer him inside. He might potentially run like a 4.5 in a 40. That's how fast we're talking. Overall, though, while he's versatile, I don't think he's a good run stopper. He doesn't have any sort of pass rush moves in the armory. And he doesn't win at the point of attack. Like he's not winning those initial hand fights. I see him get stood up and he kind of just looks a little lost on the field, if you're asking me. These are all things, again, like you can coach up. He has the physicals, but like, is that somebody that's worth going in, even the top 15 for? For me personally, no.
No, I think I have a second round grade on him. And quite frankly, I agree with everything that you said. He's just he's literally Gregory Rousseau, except smaller. Like all the talent in the world, but no technique whatsoever. He doesn't just look lost. He's like one of the most hesitant defensive players I've seen in a long time. Like there are times where you think
hype.
What's that?
I said that have this much hype.
Yeah, like that's like if you're like you can't call him a pass rusher because he's not. And I think if he does run a 4.5, I think a lot of teams are going to be like, "Whoa, we ran a 4.5. Let's put him on the edge." And I just you just can't pick him in the first round. He's just not developed enough, and he's like he obviously needs a lot of time to learn a defensive scheme, which scares me a little bit. He's not going to come out in year one, I feel like, and dominate because he's not really going to know the playbook. He's not going to come out. He might even need a little time in year two, depending on, where he goes. I think if he goes to the wrong team, his career is done for. He could be a bust.
Definitely agree.
Yeah. So as much as a lot of teams like Kwity Paye for his physicals and his raw talent, there's a lot left to be desired on actually playing the defensive, on the defensive line, regardless of position. If you use him sparingly, kind of like a rotational pass rusher where literally his only goal on third down and long is to go get the quarterback, I think you can get a guy like that in the second or third round. That's not a guy you take a chance on in the top 10 or the first round. But listen, if that's what you're looking for and he's there in round 2, hey, man, go for it. No one's going to fault you there for sure. All right, Quincy Roche, let's get it. Go for it.
Yeah. This is one real quick. He was my number 5, but I feel like I had to put him on the list. Number one thing I wrote down is production. He's actually a transfer from Temple to Miami. And he had great production for both schools.
Yep.
So he's really, really is good at that. I really described him as an elite athlete. His pass rushing repertoire is phenomenal. I really just see him as a pass rushing specialist at the next level. The big thing is he doesn't have, a big body. And he does lack the motor big time on run plays. I see him give up on the plays when they're going the opposite direction all the time. So I absolutely can't stand that.
Yeah.
And for that, I think that, he can be potentially a second round pick just because of his pass rushing,
Right.
putting him in on like nickel packages and things like that. But other than that, not the biggest fan due to the effort and the ability to not stop the run. But everybody can use a premium pass rusher these days. So
100%. And, again, he's kind of like a Kwity Paye, except he knows what he's doing. And listen, I agree with a lot of what you said. I didn't watch as much of Quincy Roche because I didn't quite necessarily see him as a top 5 option. I like, when it comes to pass rushers, I like one of two guys. I like two different types. Like, I love guys who just are physically dominant, who can get after it and make moves on the outside. Or you need a heady guy who can at least contain the edge and keep a quarterback in the pocket and then scrape inside when he steps up. Quincy Roche, I think, like, if you lack effort, you're going to get physically dominated every time. You can't just come in and think you're that good, think you're that fast, and then just give up halfway through the play if the quarterback gets past you. No one's going to like that about you. And, listen, if you are just going to be a pass rushing specialist, fine, own it. But you got to come in and actually deliver, right? So, I agree with you in that sense. If his motor is that low, I don't think teams are going to like that too much. He's just not physically built.
Someone like Osi Umenyiora made a career doing what I think he'll get drafted with, So it's possible. He the fact that he can get to the passer. That's like, at this point in the league, like, that's what people need more than anything. Like someone that can get to the quarterback. So he could definitely be a really good player for someone to steal late rounds. But
I agree. I mean, listen, like if you went to a defensive line that was already pretty good or to dominant, like if you put him
Ravens,
like, I think, you put him on the Ravens. I mean, that would obviously be really good because when don't the Ravens have a good pass rush? I think his sweet spot is going to be like Tampa, maybe New York at 34, depending on what happens. If you're the Bucs, you want to continue to build that defense, build that pass rush. You see what they did to Patrick Mahomes, and you want to continue to build on that since the offense is pretty much in place. Like, there's not much work needed on the offensive side of the ball. Maybe a running back who can catch a little bit better, but that's just about it. Outside of that, maybe Indianapolis, where they already have a very dominating defensive line, to make life a little bit easier. But again, 32, 34 is kind of the sweet spot. I want to go ahead and talk about Jason Awe. What I like most about Jason Awe is that no matter what he's doing, he just looks like he's prepared for what the offense is going to do. Very heady. I love his motor. He's another guy you see running all literally all around the field, making tackles downfield. Even if the play is busted and the running back gets a gain of 30, he's the guy making the tackle. That said, he is a pretty good run stopper, which is something I definitely noticed. He's another great bull rusher, kind of like Patrick Jones, and he's disciplined. He's another guy who's commonly used as a spy. He's very patient. Now, I think he's more of like a second round guy, maybe late first, depending on how you use him again. But he's explosive. He is explosive around the edge. I love his swim move. I included him in the list because he's another guy you could see make plays on the outside as opposed to like a Rousseau or a Phillips who need work in that area. So, I think I like Jason Alway a lot. He might even be a little bit undersized, but depending on how he runs, you could see a team make good use of him.
I like that a lot. I think it's a really good take on him. I had similar stuff. I mean, he's 6'5", 253, so he's got great length, and honestly, he'll fill out. He's pretty skinny when you really look at him at this point, so he's going to fill out. Also, another weird prospect in the sense that we've seen him go as high as like top 10 in some mocks, and in some even fourth round, like really fallen. So yeah, I think he had a decent pass rush arsenal. Honestly, like he looked like he knew what he was doing, like you said. He gets his hands up a lot, which I like as well. Like if you're not going to get to the quarterback, get your hands up, try to block it, and he does that a lot, and actually does have a pretty good, I guess, stat line of actually blocking passes. I did find that he did get pushed around a little bit in the run stop, and I think that again, like he can fix that issue. Like it's not that lack of technique or anything like that. I think it's just lack of strength and true size. I mean, 253 is not small by any means, but I think that he would do him a lot of favors to bulk up a little bit going to the next level. And then last thing I'll say is that I loved his developmental tools to work with, especially because he can also play some zone coverage. I see him more as like a 2-point stance outside linebacker, and I think the fact that he can drop back and bat some balls down, maybe get some interceptions, is pretty solid addition.
Yeah, I agree, and it's something I like a lot, and he's obviously very versatile. I think he's a guy that you can at least rely on. He's not going to dominate right away until he fills out, but he's a guy you can come in, situationally rush the passer, and also play coverage, do some different things in his first year to get acclimated to the pro game. I think if you grab him, like if somebody grabbed him in between picks like 18 and 25 or 32, like anywhere in the second half, I think you have a pretty good player with a lot of tools to work with, who I think will be in the long term a really good guy, a really good player. Especially because, listen, at the end of the day, like if you don't know what you're doing, you can be as physically dominant as you want. It won't matter. He's definitely a guy who comes in well prepared. He knows his defense. He knows what he needs to do on every play, reads his keys really well, has a really good IQ when it comes to situational football. He's a guy who may not be physically what you want right now, but he can get there because the mindset's already there. So that's why I like Jason Alway a lot, and a lot of, I think a lot of his play reflects how much he actually prepares. And as a coach, you can appreciate that 10 days out of the week, Yeah.
You know who I compared him to? I actually had him, I had this pro comp as Emmanuel Agba, the pass rusher for the Dolphins. He had like 13 or 14 sacks this year, but he had a very similar like physique and physicals coming in. But he just dominated the combine, was really fast, and he was like 6'5", around the same weight. And he really this is his second, or I think it's his third year, and he just broke out. So it's like you see the development. Like I think Jason Awa just as capable, if not more.
100%. I love it. Are we leaving anybody out?
I know you did. I didn't do too much study on Jordan Phillips. I know you did. If you want to talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. So Jalen Phillips. I think he's got great hands. I think he plays with a lot of anticipation, which I love. He's relentless in just forcing the issue, meaning, he might not get the sack right away, or he might not make a play in the backfield, but he's disruptive enough to make the quarterback step up, run outside, second guess whatever decision he's going to make. And you see that in the run game as well. he's another guy who's better rushing inside versus the outside. I think he's just a lot faster than a lot of guys when it comes to, you're blocking on the outside and then you have to come back in. He's already by you. I think he's really good at helping, just when it comes to collapsing the pocket, bull rush, swim move on the inside, whatever it is. And then even when the play isn't even close to him, he finds a way to get around the ball. So he'll go get those bubble screens. He'll go get that swing pass to the running back on the opposite side. And he's another guy with a good motor. And you can see that based on where he makes plays on the field. And he's another Miami product. So he's a guy that you definitely want to keep your eye on. He's not going to get the attention of Rousseau because he isn't as physically he doesn't have the physicals. I think he's going to be I think he's 6'4". I think he's around 260 maybe. But, he's another guy who could fill out. But I just love the anticipation, forcing the issue. I love his hands. I just think he has a little work to do in, just becoming a little bit more physically inclined to play the position. And I think if he develops an outside presence, teams are going to be all over it. So that's going to be my take on Phillips there. Anything to add?
No, just to confirm who he is. He's the Miami guy, right? He's also Miami?
So you got three
awesome.
Miami guys.
Three Miami guys. That's
Rousseau, Roche, and Jalen Phillips. All of which could very well. What's that?
He was kind of like the yin to Roche's yang this year. It was like the thunder and lightning. Roche is the outside pass rusher, and he was the guy coming inside and setting the edge a lot of the time.
Right. And you know what? I didn't even think about that, but that's a really good point. You could see those two complementing each other very well throughout the course of the year, which ultimately might be a really good thing because anytime you get a complementary piece on a team, it's just going to help the entire defensive line or pass rush get that one. So with that being said, there's a lot of guys that we like, maybe not as high as the top 10 or even as the top 15, but these are guys who we believe can come in and, with high motor and great preparation can become some pretty good, solid, or even great players. Who's the best pass rusher for the Jets in your eyes?
Out of these guys?
Yeah.
I honestly still think it's Patrick Jones. I just think he can fit into any system. If you're looking at the Jets and you want more of a pass rusher, I also think that potentially Boogie Basham, even though I kind of bashed on his pass rushing, I still think he's a good enough player to plug in there.
Yeah, I personally like Basham a lot. I think he's a physical freak. Maybe not like a Rousseau, but I think Robert Saleh will turn that guy into an absolute monster. I think if out of every pass rusher in this class, I think the highest ceiling will be Basham, and I think that's why he's my number one. I like him a lot. I'm so sick and tired of watching guys who should really be playing on the interior be overdrafted by the Jets. Like Quinnen Williams, they thought he was going to be a really great pass rusher. I'm like, he's an interior defensive lineman. You have him and Leonard Williams. Where's the edge presence? And I think Basham or even Jason or even a guy like a Jason Awe will be a guy who comes in and plays really well. I think it really just depends on where if you're the front office of the Jets, where the sweet spot is. I think you're looking at anywhere between 20, maybe 23, maybe 34. If you do find a way to trade Sam Darnold for a late first, whatever that sweet spot is, it depends on, it really depends on the strategy there. But I think 23 or 34 are the sweet spots to get any one of these guys. And I would be happy with the pass rusher. I think the Jets still have a lot of holes on offense to fill, to put some points on the board. But if you can get a guy like Basham with the 23rd pick, I'm not going to complain too much. That's how highly.
Or even with the 34th pick,
Or take him with the 34th pick, So, that's going to do it for the pass rushing aspect of things. Those are our top 5, top 6 guys, top 7. The next position group we're going to talk about, I want to talk about this cornerback group. I think it's a very good cornerback group this year. especially in the first round. There are going to be a few guys that I think we're going to agree on just based on what we like. And then there are going to be some guys that could be a little bit more just fit dependent. But it's a solid cornerback draft class this year. And I'm excited to talk about that more than anything. So, Tom, what do you think about doing that next week?
Oh, that fires me up. I love
Phenomenal.
cornerbacks.
Let's fucking do it. This is going to do it for this episode, guys. I'm very excited to get this to you. Let us know in the comments below what you think. You guys have rankings. A lot of these guys could be interchangeable depending on what you like. Umbro, Tomo, no beanie. Take care, guys.